Yes, do you? I'm not going to, but if you'd like to. Okay. Go ahead. Austriaco?
Here.
Vessler? Collins? Here. Hoyle?
Here.
Lee?
Here.
Sullivan? Owen? Here. Okay, start with communications. Are there any public comments? Do not see any. We have a finance committee update.
Yes, the committee met on the 19th of July, called the 5 command, according to the president. We discussed 4 issues, which was the 17-18 budget, which is the public hearing for the debate resolution for the board, how the class meeting, all items were recognized.
And some of those are coming up. Okay, thank you. Education committee. Oh, sorry, buildings and grounds. Sorry, Jim.
Committee did also meet on July 19th after the financial meeting, around 5:31 p.m. And we did have a facility master plan updates, which was very important, and a lot of information has been provided. The Whited company, the architect, came and did a presentation. Since January, White has been collecting data based on email surveys collected from students and staff on their priorities for their school's facility master plan. And 855 students and 289 staff members responded. Consistently at the top of the list are dining and common areas, followed by fitness centers, locker rooms, bathrooms, and updating of classrooms. Technology is the biggest enhancement of the learning environments, with the most limiting being room size. Students responded that they will be more likely to visit the library if there were more comfortable furniture, as well as areas to suit our noise levels and areas to work collaboratively. Teachers would like to have multi-purpose spaces for large group instruction. The master plan team, they have visited several newly remodeled high schools to get their ideas. Those schools were included New Trier High School, Stevenson High School, Naperville Central High School, and Edison Trail. Building assessment is ongoing. The meeting will be scheduled with White and principals, district administration, and large leader groups for feedbacks. The White will create a facility master plan and present to the full board in the coming month. And we are joining that's how we go.
Just one follow-up on that. I know there were visits to some of the schools. Who went on that visit?
So representatives from the facility master plan team, which is comprised of building level administrators, district level administrators, and then at least one department chair from each core instructional area.
Okay.
And so then not everybody could go on the visits, so then we created pictures and notes and shared them with the whole group.
Okay. Were they all done in one day? Or
No,
maybe
you
like
could probably
different
do
days?
about
Okay.
2 schools a day.
Okay.
And they took the great photos, and board members were invited to, so anybody scheduled for Mr. were able to participate and do a site tour. And before that, for example, I was able to visit Stevenson High School, and great technology and updated a lot of facilities, very impressive. It will be worthwhile to see updates on the schools, of course, and then when the master plan committee members give us a full board presentation, we will allow stay tuned.
Thank you. Education committee update. Ms. Paul is not here. Sean, would you mind?
Sure. We met on July 24th at 12:30. We covered 4 topics. One topic is in your board packet this evening for consideration, which is a contract website vendor. That was also sent out in Friday notes on July 28th for you to review. We then talked about the a district looking into a new student information system, which can support some of the new educational strategies that we're trying in the classroom, such as blended learning, which we then talked a little bit about definition of blended learning and shared some information from the board as an FYI. Lastly, we gave an update as to what our plan is for professional development for the hybrid bell schedule, which will go into effect in 2018-28.
All right. Any update from the superintendent? Oh, well, it comes after. That's okay. Any updates from board members?
Yes, I have one.
Yes, go ahead.
So, a couple things from the app. We did a book collection. We have 5,000 books to donate to the prison in Illinois, and that's with the District 07 books. And I need to abstain from that, so that's earlier. But the other thing is that we worked with the city to get an ordinance for vaping. We did, in fact, Tony, the time officer, is in the back, and it's a numbers-driven ordinance, and then we just kept seeing, 6 in a week, 10 in a week. It was really, toward the end of the year, was just really growing in frequency. And so we worked with the city to get an ordinance that would be right now it's, well, $100 fine for smoking a cigarette. That's what the fine was. But now we changed it to $500 for a fine or a class, which would be $125, and with the students and the parents. So that's bound to affect some of our students, but it's meant, we don't ever want to collect a fine. We don't want to collect the $500 fine. We want to have the class and with the students and the parents. That's the objective of the ordinance. So there's some questioning going on tonight about the amount of the fine, because but anyway, it's passed, it's law right now, and I wanted to share that with you guys.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ben?
Okay, I'm going to just do a brief update. As we've done annually, we've tried to get together in the summer with our administrative team to go over goal setting. We've probably for the last 5 or 6 years done, I think, a better job from the board level down all the way through the entire system of what Mark McGrath used to call cascading goals. And so even things like our PARA goals, which are the student growth goals that teachers are required to have under SB 7, which was when the change in the law for teacher evaluation happened, those goals actually intersect with all the goals that we have at the board level. So just real quickly, this summer, we did goal setting on July 12th, and we shaped them really into 4 broad categories, really 3 of which we've had in place for a long time. We dream small, so number 1 is develop the best high school schedule ever invented to serve students and staff. And we've done a lot of work on this with the adoption of the new schedule. Now the next steps come into play, which is let's actually make it happen. On 90–95% of what's going to happen with the schedule, I'm very comfortable with what's going to happen. Our teachers are going to be great, both in the 50-minute periods and the 90-minute periods, and we will have a really good plan in place to help serve them and support them to do well. On the individual enrichment periods, that's where the mechanics of making sure that we've got multiple places to serve students. We already have a lot of these things built, whether it's a math intervention, whether it's an English intervention, a science intervention, whether it's social emotional supports, whether it's career college counseling. We have these interventions in place, but we think we can do better, particularly in the college and career counseling. We think we can do more of them, and we think we have avenues for students to do even more. So we already have students doing a lot of independent study and doing, inventing things and making things. We've got a student at East who was rebuilding with an architect program called Reddit, rebuilding one of the cabins at the Methodist So we've got students doing a lot of really cool things, and the schedule will really enhance that. In fact, I will predict that we will have districts coming to District 07 to see our schedule for the two signature things that it does. One is it's going to serve students in a way that we simply aren't able to do right now on the current schedule. But it's not just going to serve our students, it's going to serve our staff better. And we already talked about the number of substitute teaching days that we think we can reduce both for student loss and for staff loss. And there's residual savings and money for that as well. And to be able to get more efficient and do better and be able to save money is also a really good thing, particularly when you can increase teachers being in front of students.
Good question.
Yes.
Is there going to be a way for you to track what the kids are doing in those hiding periods?
Yes.
Because it's not going to be the same all the time.
It's not gonna be the same all the
But there
time.
will be a way for them to either scan in,
So-
how will that?
So the way to conceptualize this is just as, we could have called that ID period a study hall, and we may call it something different by the time we start this, but it would be scheduled in the same way that a study hall is scheduled. So this happens right now, so a teacher or multiple people have a large study hall. Well, even in our current study hall, students are going to different places, so they're scheduled in a study hall to start with, but they may be going to get help in the math lab, and they may be going to other places.
And there'll be a way to,
There'll be a way to track
the
it.
edge of the year or whatever, we'll be
Yes.
able to kind of see
Yes.
where kids were, like
Yes.
percentage-wise.
And we do that now. We do that now, we'll just have to refine it, because what I would imagine is gonna happen, Carl, is we'll have more opportunities and we'll have longer periods of time. So we'll have to refine that a little bit. We keep score on those things now. Student services program, we really have set some ambitious goals to try to improve our student services program. One of the things we're gonna work on this year is developing a 4-year checklist of those things that we wanna see happen for the freshman year, the sophomore year, the junior year, and then the senior year. And actually, Dr. Collins has informed me today, so let the arms race begin. He's already got a plan, Audrey, yeah, you're listening, for South to meet every freshman student this year before they start school next year. So I'm just putting that out there, letting you know what's going on in South. Good. So in all honesty, we really want that conversation to begin with the parents prior to them coming here, because we're doing high school differently than what a lot of people remember high school being when they went. So in fact, I went out this year, and I intend to go out more in the coming years to our elementary districts and have meetings with their parents, even elementary parents, to get them thinking about how the world has changed, how the economics of work has changed. It's not too soon to start thinking about that. A lot of parents, I was guilty of this, most of us in the crew were guilty of this. We think one thing about successful kids, we've got to get them enrolled in college. And the truth is, there's a really, really wide array of things that can happen for students to look and be successful, and we need to tell that story. Increase student agency for each and every student. I'll talk a little bit about that, but what that really means is not only increasing our students' access to rigorous courses, and we have greatly done that, and I think it's served our students very well, but then also give them a lot of ownership of their learning. Just as any learner, whether it's an adult learner, whether it's a student learner, if they own their learning, they're a more powerful learner. So we're going to ask them to do more and support them to do more independently than ever before. And then we're going to lead in the advancement and application of the science and art of teaching. And we're already in a good place with this, but we have places to go that we think will be really special. It's interesting, we got into coaching 10 years ago. When I got here in 2005, we had trained 300-something teachers in cooperative learning, and so I started auditing who's using it and how well are they using it. Well, it turned out of those 300-something people, not very many people were using it. The ones that were using it weren't using it very well. But you know who's using it really well? The teacher trainers who train on cooperative learning were using it really, really well. There's a neuroscience basis for why that happens. It's like Glasser said, we remember 10% of what we hear, 25% of what we see and hear, and 95% of what we teach. Same thing is true for student learning and it's true for adult learning. So one of the things that we've got to solve for is how do we create more lanes for teachers to lead? How do we create more lanes for teachers to own their own learning and then help other teachers learn? So we have 4 current coaching paths. What we are imagining is a 5th path. So for example, Linda is an outstanding teacher. She's going through coaching training. Instead of Linda having a coaching plan next year, perhaps her plan is to coach another teacher. And so if we apply that one strategy, think of how widely we can open up teacher leadership. So if we apply that across our teaching staff, we think we can go to something that's really, really different and gives more teachers opportunities to lead. That's really where we become our best self, is having every teacher lead. I've said this before opening day, but I really mean it. If we ever become the best version of ourselves, in 1 year, half of our teachers will coach the other half, and the next year, it'll flip. I really do mean that, and I try to imagine a path to get there. So those are the kind of the 4 big goals that we're working on. On the scheduling, we're modeling all of our RTI and enrichment opportunities. RTI is response intervention. That's all of the kids that we're trying to keep on track in a given class where we really have it broken down to a standard. So instead of the old model, which is fail the class, come back, repeat, we really try to keep kids on track. And I'd say for high schools who were slow to embrace response intervention, we weren't here. And so I think we're ahead of the game. Elementary schools tended to embrace response intervention. I think we've done a really good job of doing that. And Audrey, in particular at West, sort of led the way, but we've got a good program across the district on this. We can get better. We will continue to get input from various stakeholders. And then, as I said, we're going to work on our SPS department to really work on a 4-year checklist so that we know the things that we're going to ask this, not only our SPS department, but our entire staff to really do for our students, to get them as ready for success after high school as possible. And there's just a lot of things that we think we can do better. The time's going to help us do that. So in student services, again, the 4-year student services checklist will articulate at each grade level what it is we're wanting to do. So for example, if I'm a counselor and I want all of my students to get a relevant career experience by the time they make a post-high school decision, I want to be able to measure that. I want to be able to know how are we doing on that goal. And so we're going to actually have each of those things that we want to be able to do, we're going to measure that and hold ourselves accountable to do it. We're going to continue to increase our internships and increase our business partners. We're going to investigate and if appropriate, we're going to adopt a new tool for career cruising. We use a program now actually called Career Cruising. It's got some strengths, but it has some very significant limitations. In particular, I have about 3 mothers a year who are mad at me because it tells their kids that they should be masseuses. For whatever reason, I get about 3 angry pieces of feedback on that from the Career Cruising, and it really does that, and I don't blame them. But there are better tools out there, and so we're going to look at what those tools are to make sure that our families just have the best data available. What's the jobs market? We can know that. What's a mean salary in a given field in Chicago? What's a mean salary in a given field in Des Moines? We can actually answer that question. We can answer that question, and we can begin to do much more robust counseling about where kids ought to go to school and how much money they ought to spend on going to school. We're trying to do something that's never been done. We get kids into college all the time. This conversation that we're imagining happening does not happen yet in high schools, at least none that I'm aware of, but we're going to try to be first to do it. And then meeting with every freshman before they begin high school to begin this process, to have those beginning conversations, and it's just a conversation starter. They will have done some things in the middle school level to begin doing some career cruising. None of this is etched in stone. It's a conversation starter. If we can get kids metacognitively thinking about what they want to do, why they want to do it, we think will help them make better decisions, especially if we can get them those career experiences to help them either confirm a path or make another path. So we think we can do that. Okay, and these are our career experiences. We've been tracking them. We're actually a little above what this chart shows. I'll have an updated chart here in about a month, but I think we're actually over 700 experiences now. This is our individual career planning sheet. We're going to build that out a little bit more robustly, but this will be part of our checklist that we're imagining over 4 years. And then increasing student agencies. Continue to increase our challenge indexes, increase our dual credit offerings. We're bringing Math 125 online this year. It's probably the most significant math class, probably the most significant dual credit class that we've ever taught. And the reason is, we just started English 101 this year, but Math 125 is the credit-bearing class that trips up more kids from college than probably any other course that we teach. And so we're bringing Math 125 on this year, which is a credit-bearing course with Oakton.
Could you remind me what's Math 125?
Math 125 is probably the non-STEM math that, so a kid that's not going into engineering, for example, that would take a
So
humanities major.
algebra, so the algebra, geometry, then?
Yeah. And algebra 2 is kind of that pay on the research.
Define what you do, like increase.
Yes. So student agency.
You're using the term argument, it's not making sense.
Okay, so our kid last year that had a Reddit certification at Maine East High School that did an independent study project with Oakton to rebuild one of those cabins at Methodist. That's an example of agency, and I'll give you a couple of more here. So that's a student that's owning a project using, in her case, a credential that she got, a certification that she got, experience in other classes that she's gotten, and then experience in the tools we provided with to actually solve the real world problem. It's a Montessori thing.
I'm with you.
Okay. So,
Just like my mother would be very disappointed when I took that career chart and said, very disappointed.
she'll listen to your mother. And so, blended and flipped opportunities, we have a cohort of, about 90, 100 teachers this year. About 90 teachers, pretty equally spread across the 3 buildings. And so, what blended and flipped will allow us to do, we already have a lot of teachers doing flip learning. We don't have as many doing what I'm calling blended learning, although there's some other terms that we may start using. But those are things that we can do regardless of the schedule change to sort of play with time in some cool ways. Elena Bass is a name that I've talked to a lot of you about. You've seen some of her pictures. She's the math teacher over at East where the kids do, they watch usually a film of her, get some stuff at night in smaller chunks, and they come to school the next day and they actually do the work in class.
So I know what flipped is for
So blended, in my thinking of blended, what I would describe blended, although this is not perfect, but our purpose tonight will work. So let's say, for example, that you wanted to get more science time, and you're a senior that's taking AP Chem, and you may also have you may have a PE class. So regardless of whether you're eligible for a PE waiver or not, let's just say you're in this PE class. Well, one of the things that we could do is on Wednesday, which would be a long day, let's say you've got period 2 PE, which means not even a period on Wednesday, you can do a blended class. You can have a virtual assignment, you can track something with Fitbit, and you would have a virtual assignment. Maybe that time becomes time which you might use for science, if you need the extra time for science. So it lets you, we have the flexibility now to play with time in a way that we didn't used to, and I think Illinois is moving to a place where we're going to get past the Carnegie units, which have defined our semester. We're actually one of the last states left in the nation that still is defining its classes by Carnegie units, which is 60 hours of your in the season for defining a semester. So, and then we're going to continue to increase opportunities for independent study. So our Reddit kit, for example, we think we have many, many, many more examples, and you've heard multiple examples of our students this year, everything from the kid that built the bots in South to all the other people, the kids that have been building the different apps to solve various problems. We think if we can turn our kids loose with some good adult supervision, we really do a lot more to have student agency by having more independent time for them to work on things that are passionate to them.
This is where I've heard you say, to get out of their way.
Get out of their way a little bit. So this is a first. Now, we somehow missed this, but you know how we've been talking about getting to 3.0 by 2020? We had projected that South was going to get there next year. South actually got there. We have our first building this year at the end of 2017. So Sean, you get some big props for this. Your staff gets big props for this. But there's a lot of cool in this story. So if you just take a look at what an actual bottom of this is shaved off of this, because our district average is 2.8. We took a bigger one-year jump in our challenge index this year than we've ever taken in history. We actually improved a half of an entire point this year. So our mean is 2.8. It was 2.3 last year. West has jumped up to the highest position it's ever occupied since we've been keeping track of the challenge index. They have really gained a lot of momentum, and it's just due to strategies that they've employed in the building. East is a year behind a couple of strategies that South and West have employed. They will come online next year. So next year, I think it's possible that we could have a second building hit 3.0 next year. We had set a goal to get all three there by 2020. This is a pretty significant thing, and I've already told Ben that, you know, South's charge now is what does it look like the big four, and I think it's possible. And so we're really, really proud of this. You know, to hit it 3 years ahead of schedule, which we knew was possible, to have Audrey right there knocking on the door and Mike not far behind. I think we may make this goal a year or two early for the entire district. And our mean is pretty close right now. Our mean right now is 2.8. So from a district perspective, we may, at least at our mean level next year, we may hit it on the mean. If we improve even half of what we did this year, we will hit it at the mean level. So that's pretty impressive. I'm very proud of that. Very proud of the work that everyone's done. And our kids are doing really great. They really are doing great. And I think, you know, we talk about getting kids college ready, getting kids career ready. Well, even if a kid's not going to college or not going to an elite college, the best thing you can do for the kid is have them ready. Have them ready to go. Have them ready to go and succeed and do the work. This is our students who are doing accelerated work. I'm very proud of this. So when we talk about increasing rigor, this is a 3-year, year over year, where we've grown at about 5% a year, and we've identified kids who are in accelerated classes, who are in AP classes, who are in dual credit courses. What better way to demonstrate that you're college ready than to do college work successfully while you're in high school? And so we have really, really increased the percentage of our kids doing work. Proud of this for a lot of different reasons. One, our teaching staff has really stepped up. We're finding ways to help students be successful. I think I've told before when I got here in 2005, we had kids locked out of our accelerated tracks, which meant they didn't get into AP. So one of the very first things that we had to do was sort of unlock those tracks and let kids into the track. And what we found is that our kids have succeeded, and they've succeeded very well. We only have one elementary district that has a gifted program. It's District 64, and they limit kids to the top 5% of test takers at 3rd grade. Now, I've told District 64, and I believe this to be true, if they would test their students, do a longitudinal test, I would bet you that those 5% students tend to be their most affluent students. Now, this isn't our most affluent district, but I would bet you that they'd be disproportionately most affluent students. So essentially what happens in these gifted programs is the rich get enriched. I'm more interested in talent. Every kid's got talent. How do we grow talent? And one of the ways that you do that is you've got to open the doors up and let kids in. So by a factor of 10-fold, we have more kids doing accelerated work at Maine South than's happening at 64, and we don't have any identified gifted. Now here's the cool thing. For 2 or 3 years, what our elementary superintendents have been saying, we need to enrich, we need to enrich, we need to accelerate, we need to enrich. For the first time this spring, we've got elementary superintendents saying we've got to enrich, we've got to accelerate. So we think we can do a lot more if we can continue to work with the elementary districts and really enrich kids. You know, neuroscience is pretty simple. If you enrich mammals, they do better cognitively than mammals who aren't enriched, and that's, you know, at the essence of everything. So that's one of the reasons why we've been so passionate here about trying to detrack. Because what happens with tracking is kids get into lower tracks, they never get out of those lower tracks. If you want kids to accelerate, you've got to enrich them. So this is another example, Sean, that I would argue of student agency, but this comes in the form of an integrated curriculum. So this is our GEO construction course, where the kids just finished our 6th house, Habitat for Humanity house, over at Maine East High School. What's cool is not only are these kids building houses, so they get at these big questions of why do you do anything in the world? What is it that you want to change for the better in the world? And you're asking and answering some really, really big questions that I think moves kids in a way that maybe conventional school doesn't. But our kids in geo construction are outperforming their geo-only peers on the same geometry assessments. So it also gets at just a better way to learn geometry when they're actually applying it in a construction realm. And so actually I got some pictures today. We are have our first house that's going up in our community. Most of these have gone either out in Elgin or down in central Illinois. This one is going to be a new community member, Dolly, if you met her last year. She is a Nigerian refugee who's going to have a daughter at Maine West and has a little one coming up, I think who's 62. Her older daughter, I can't remember if she's going to be a student with us this year or coming in soon, but she's going to be a Maine West student. So this is going up over in Des Plaines. This is going to be one of our community members. So now, the sixth house we built becomes the first house that we built for a community member in District 207, which is a really, really cool thing. And has me inspired to think, how many more of these could we build in our own communities? It's wonderful to build for Elgin, it's wonderful to build for anyone in need, anytime, but it's really cool to think that we just built a house that's going to go over in Des Plaines for a family that's going to send their students to our school. I think that's a really compelling story. I'm very proud of it. These are examples. Sean, I would argue each of these is a different form of student agency, where students are solving problems independently. We've got some of these at each of our buildings. The girl down here in the bottom left, this is our Reddit student who rebuilt one of the Methodist homes. Reddit is an architectural certification. And then we've got any number of other things. In the upper right-hand corner is Dinesh, who we met last year, one of our students of the month, who worked for the architect firm and was checking the stock market. And the boss walked by and said, "Tell me how that helps me." And Dinesh had an answer, and he has a card now and working for the firm while he's going to school. So we've got amazing, amazing kids that do amazing things. This is West, where the kids up here, Audrey and the civil engineering class, they had a problem with some egress in one of the parking lots, and guess what? We turned it into an authentic learning experience for the kids, where the kids worked with our buildings and grounds, with one of our engineers, and actually helped contribute to the solving of the egress problem in the parking lot. So when I say student agency, that's what I mean. This student developed a tutoring, it was an AP online tutoring program. I mean, there's so many compelling stories that are happening right now with our kids. They're already happening. The question is, how do we grow that? How do we find that unique individual thing for each kid, whatever their passion is, how do we make that happen for them? And so, adult learning. You know, I mentioned the fifth coaching option. The other thing I want to do is, you know, I went this year, we had our sixth version of our action research reports this summer. We had a symposium that was a venture with Northwestern, a couple of other universities, and several schools. But the presenters, other than a few Northwestern teachers, were all of our teachers presenting on their authentic action research. I told several of them, we need to get you out presenting at other conferences. So I want to figure out a way to really promote our teachers, to give them the respect that they deserve by giving them more opportunities to present their findings, to present the work that they're doing to audiences, both internally but also externally. So we're looking for ways to do that. Northwestern has approached us about a partnership to reimagine student teaching. Well, they approached us about a partnership for student teaching. I asked them to reimagine student teaching. The way student teaching works right now is, you're a student teacher, I'm a teacher, I work with you a little bit, and then I leave, and you take over the class. And a lot of our teachers don't want to do student teaching now for that very reason, because the stakes have changed on evaluation, so they don't want to make it their class. It's getting harder and harder for us to get teachers to do student teaching. But what if, instead of me leaving, what if student teaching became a co-teaching experience where I'm teaching with you and I'm coaching you? When real things happen in the class, I'm coaching you in real time and helping you be a better teacher by making that a coaching model instead of a vacated classroom model. And so Northwestern is interested in that. Now if we develop this, we'll expand well beyond Northwestern. And what I'm pitching to Northwestern, this probably won't work with Northwestern, but I'd like to do a summer program where teachers are doing their student teaching with us, and we do enrichment programs with those teachers doing student teaching for 62 and 63 in particular, but also 64, especially 62 and 63, with our really, really neat kids who can stand to have some cool enrichments in summer. What if we reimagine student teaching to do something like that? And then continue to improve our research. We've already got a lot of good research on that, but I think we need to connect to the larger world of research. I said this, and I mean this. We should be trying to be the teaching and learning what teaching hospitals are medicine. Nobody in the country is doing the type of research that we're doing on teaching and learning. We ought to really think bigger about what that looks like and how to really become great at that. And I think so trying to link outside of ourselves is something that we'd really like to do. I think Jill Paris's position is going to help us a lot in this role. And then continue to evolve our adult learning program in the same way that we're wanting to do blended, flipped online learning for our students. I think we need to use those strategies with our adults so that we can honor their time a little bit better and give them what they need in real time. And that's another way that we can minimize the time out of classrooms. I think we can continue to evolve our program there. This is just our Chicago Coaching Center logo. We had a really good, what I would call a soft launch this summer, sold out. We've got our next training coming up in September. But a year from now in the summer, we really want to begin having a national presence in instructional coaching and development of that. And what we bring to the table is something that most people that are doing the training don't bring. We bring it from a practitioner standpoint. Our seniors this year, our seniors in high school, will be the first seniors in America, we believe, who will have gone through high school for 4 years where every teacher every year was coached. Think about that. Our seniors this year will be the first group of seniors to go through a high school where every teacher every year had a coaching plan to do one thing, and that's to get better. And we're really proud of that. And so we think we can continue to grow. This was the iLearn Symposium that we did with Northwestern. Just amazing, amazing action research that our teachers did about their own practice. What's cool about our program is the teachers go do it, and then they coach the next group through it. It's this iterative, recursive process. I keep saying every year, they keep getting better every year, but I think that's why, because there's this pay it forward cycle in our program that's just been a really, really cool thing. And then the CLEAR project, this is the one strand within our coaching plan that's about the action research. And so that's it. Again, kudos, our principals here, they're just doing amazing, amazing work. Sean, kudos to you. I know you moved over to a new chair, but it's kind of cool that you hit that 3.0 before you started this new position. And I think we've got a lot of really good things going on. We have big challenges in front of us like anybody else does. But I think we've got the talent and the horsepower here to do some really cool things and to be ready to figure out what's next and how to get better. So that's my presentation.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for Karen, or? Okay, moving along then, monthly status of finances, Mary?
In your board packet is the June financial report, and right now I call us June is in the in-between stage because we've got last year's audit entries reversed but not booked this year yet, so it's neither on a cash or an accrual basis, it's in the in-between basis. We should be in good shape on a budget to actual, with the exception would be the site construction fund, where because of accounts payable on some of our large boiler projects, we'll have more expenditures, but again, that's timing. State revenues, the state still owes us over $2 million. They've not come through with revenue. That is owed to us for 17 and time to record it, so we're going to see about a timing difference of about $2 million in state revenue for the year. I will entertain any questions that anybody has on the June financials.
Moving along then, monthly update on FOIA requests.
We have 4 this month in the evolving process.
Could I have a motion on the consent agenda, but only items A through F?
I'll move 5A through F.
Right, and there's a little correction, a typo on July 10, our regular board meeting. That was just the names, there's a Mary and Marcus thing, so.
No, yes.
Oh,
Okay, got it, thank you, okay. Okay, with that correction to the minutes. Anything else? Okay. Would you take the roll then, Jim? Austriaco?
Aye.
Collins?
Aye.
Boyle? Aye. Lee? Sullivan? Owen? Aye.
Item 5G,
This is the disposal of books. Can you take a roll? Oh, sorry.
I'll second.
Okay. Sullivan? Lee? Coyle? Collins?
Abstain.
Austriaco?
Aye.
And Owen. Aye. Okay, do I have a motion on item 6?
Second.
This is the intergovernmental agreement. Kevin, will just give a little summary. This is the special, this is everything.
So this is an annual special ed agreement that we do with the Niles Township Special Education District. These are primarily students that go to Molloy. And so on an annual basis, depending on the enrollment at the school, we will have costs that are associated with the specific students that are there. And so this $259,125 is reflective of the students that we have enrolled for the 2017 school year and whatever services, related services that they may have.
And there's no changes to the language or
No, no
within
change.
the number
No.
of students.
It's all, this is all enrollment.
Any questions? Judy, would you take a roll? Collins?
Aye.
Coyle? Aye. Lee? Bassett? Austriaco?
Aye.
Sullivan? Owen? Aye. Do I have a motion on item 7?
Second.
Mary?
We are the administrative agent for NSER, which is the North Suburban Educational Region for Vocational Education. They are almost exclusively grant funded. Joint agreements budgets are due to the state by the end of August. So recently at our August meeting, we've taken action on the NSER budget.
Any questions? And Jenny, would you take the roll? Sullivan? Coyle? Aye. Austriaco?
Aye.
Collins? Lee? Owen? Aye. Can I have a motion on item 8? Yes. Okay. Any questions? You want to summarize these? Mary, you have 2 of them.
So, on the PE topic, we are recommending that we reject the bid from Aramark. It was a substantial increase and bringing services in-house. So we start doing our own teleservice. We'll also partner with the special education program to offer on-site job training for some of the special ed kids in terms of helping to do the laundry and fold the laundry. And then the second one is the paper bid. So we bid copy paper. We were previously purchasing off the state bid. The low bidder was Veritiv. They're a company that services a lot of school districts. So we are and we check references and we're hopeful, and we anticipate spending about $90,000 in time.
Sean?
You take Tableau, Mark, you said an update.
I worked with our attorneys, negotiated the agreement with Tableau last month, and we are at a point where we are comfortable recommending the agreement to the board for approval.
For data software management.
We've been given this.
Not at this scale, but we have.
And for this data analytic, what effects we did make so far?
What outcomes? Sorry.
What outcomes that we've been having so far using this data analytics? Progresses.
We've been analyzing some of the slides that were in Ken's slide deck, included the data, creating visualizations that can help us learners.
Our student support teams also use the data, so we create data management dashboards, so the reporting system, I think, is spoken about several times, developed in Tableau. So we use that pretty regularly along with start testing scores, chart student growth, literacy, small scale, this will expand our scale, to be able to use that beyond one data management.
So think about it this way, and it's a good question. So I was trying to describe it the other day, I remember who I talked to, but I said, it's like, if you go to your doctor now, odds are when your doctor walks in, they probably have their laptop open, and they're looking at your sheet, so they're looking at your you know, whatever testing you've had in there, and then looking at you. And so what we'd like to try to do for students is borrow off that medical model so that in a given time, we can have all the vital signs for the student, everything that tells us about how they're doing the student, what they need, where they're excelling, where they need more help, and anything like that. But then not just capture for a student, capture for a class, capture for entire class, maybe a building across the district, capture for an entire building, capture for the junior class across, capture for, you know, low-income students, capture for whatever group of students that we want to look at those dashboard views of the things that we're trying to do. So I mentioned that 4-year checklist. A lot of the things that we would want to use for the 4-year checklist would be on our dashboard. So I wanted on individual student, like for an individual student, I want to know, have you had a relevant career experience? And I would want, so I imagine different, maybe a counselor, maybe a teacher could look at, you know, Caroline. So you could look at Caroline and say, okay, Caroline is a rising junior, she's rising senior. She's rising senior. So I would hope that in the very near future, Caroline's counselor is looking at this dashboard and sees Caroline doesn't have a relevant career experience. Let's get on that. And so all of the things that we think are really important to do, that we've got that dashboard. You've got to, you've got to have the scorekeeping in the first place, and then you've got to have the place where people can see it. And so that's what we're trying to build. Tableau is going to help us tie all of that together. All of the things that we want to try to measure for students, that will help us do that. The other thing about Tableau, we didn't say it here, but you heard Sean talk about perhaps migrating off of Aspen, which is our current student information system. One of the advantages that we could get by going with another student information system is that there's one in particular that the cost of Tableau would go dramatically down. I'm talking like 80% reduction down if we paired with a particular student information system. So that's not the reason to look at another student information system, but it's not a bad side effect either. Of looking at that.
How do we get a trainings where the Tableau will be the representatives will be coming to our district in person and teach the staff and
so we are a train the trainer model. So everything that we train on here with our teachers, we have any week you come in this room here, we'll have teachers training other teachers on something else. So in this particular case with Tableau, Dan Bacher is the person that we've sent to school to get trained on Tableau. And one of the things I've asked him to do this year is to develop training for teachers, for administrators, for whoever needs to use Tableau. So we'll develop our own in-house training.
And I know they're based in Seattle, Washington, out of state. Do we have any high-tech like this contractors from state of Illinois?
Well,
encourage local.
So Tableau is pretty ubiquitous. It's very ubiquitous in private sector. It's very ubiquitous in higher ed, and it's increasingly ubiquitous in K-12. We're probably the head of the pack in terms of K-12 use, but it's a very, very powerful tool. We've looked at some other tools, but Tableau is a really, really good tool, and that's the nature of, you know.
Now, I believe Floodlight is local.
We have one for member Lee, and the next contract is Elgin.
From Elgin, I see that. So
They're closing a home on that.
good to know, supporting local businesses and so on.
One other thing on Tableau, I know that some of our board members were interested in looking at the end user license agreement, which we have, but I also believe our council looked at this, is that correct? I just wanted to make sure.
This is like the third iteration, so
Okay.
we've gone back and forth.
Okay. And I just want to go back for a second.
My question's
Sean.
on A, so he can do
Oh, yeah, you need to go, yes, right.
And so just lastly, we are looking to change our website provider. From the Friday note, we included in there some of the displeasure we had with our current provider, who was really not responsive and not getting us down the road where we wanted to be with a high-quality website. And so we've decided to go with Floodlight, put some links in there, some local schools that are using them, which have a really nice web presence, not only for ease of use for families, but also for the kind of public relations end that we're looking for as well at the district level.
Do we know any other school districts or other schools specifically using this company?
Yes. District 214, there's several around us locally. And that Friday note, I included, there's 3 links there if you want to check out the websites of local schools that are using the website.
That would be good if you can provide us with some information so we can kind of compare so-called
Happy to
and
send it.
try to find out maybe how many people are really getting in or digging into the website. Do we able to see those data?
Oh, do you mean our actual data usage of who's
Yeah.
using our website?
because-
We do have all of those numbers. We can
Yeah, I
pull
can
up.
get the Google Analytics from.
Are we
our
pretty
current
active
provider.
overall?
I haven't looked at them recently, but, at least not since I've launched, and, I think that from the previous analytics that we've looked at, the people who are coming to our sites are either in the community looking at, information about the school for their student, things like college and career planning and stuff like that. And then people coming to the district site are looking at the area as a place to move into, getting information about the district.
We are spending a lot of money on the website, and then we want to utilize it as much as possible. And also at the same time, we want to let the community also knows and educate them that they can able to use this website for any kind of resource, information, or stuff that they may need. So we provide it as much as we can.
I think Floodlight is gonna make it so much easier for parents and everybody else to utilize the website. School Messenger we're having a lot of problems. So this is actually a really good move. Maybe a little bit more expensive, but I think the mobility and the accessibility really should be where we should focus also.
Have we gotten a lot of complaints, actual complaints?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I thought so, because I
You,
Stop by a
wait a minute,
second.
did you? You were one of them.
I told Sean his first year, could you please fix the website,
It's
now
taken
he's-
us 7 years
Yeah.
of getting.
okay, yeah, I think there's a need.
Yeah.
I do.
We're good at a lot of things. Our website has never been one of them. We just have never been good at it. And I would like to fix that. Now, part of it too, and I'm saying this in public, we have also, so the districts you'll see, Jen, that use Floodlight, 214, 21, 214 in particular, 59, they hire professional staff to also run their websites. So we've not necessarily done that. It's a combination of things. But I would like for us to improve in this area.
I'm just gonna go back to Sean with a question.
On the students in A that are going to be working on the towels, can you tell us how they're going to be supervised, who's going to be training them, and how they're going to get compensated?
So these are students in our transition and life skills programs, so they will either have a teacher assistant or job coach who assists them. They will be trained by, and it'll be slightly different in each building, because the people in charge of the laundry are slightly different in each building, but they will be charged by the custodial staff who is currently washing the uniforms, who knows how to use the equipment. So they're going through, and East used to do this, so they're gonna set it up so that they, with tables and bins, so that it replicates a laundry area in a hotel.
How they're going to be compensated?
They will not, they're currently not compensated now, and this replaces their work experience in their IEPs, so they were not going to be compensated.
I personally would like to find a way to compensate them some. Part of doing a job and doing it right is to get compensated. First day you get your first check, or you get your first dollar bill, even if you're working from out, I think it's important.
Yeah, I hear you, and so let's think about that, because one of the things we've tried to do, we have a lot of internships, first of all, and we're trying to increase opportunities for students to have internships. Well, we've kind of had our demarcation point
is where we've had students intern with us in the summertime, we turn those into paid internships. So just think about that as a concept. You know, if I'll give you an example, like we had a group of students doing some video production for us last year, well, we did some paid internships in the summertime. So the paid internship becomes its own limiting factor at some point, depending on how widely we scale out currently.
And I fully understand the concept of life skills and IEP. All I'm saying is try to recognize their achievement.
And they may already do something along the lines of like full compensation, because it's small chunks of time.
Right.
So it could be 45 minutes, so, you know, kind of, so we'll find out too if they do something like awards points, and then they go to the school store and are allowed to choose something, so we'll look into how.
And just so you know, we actually transport students to a number of facilities nearby here, hotels, for example, to do these here, as part of their work, training
They're
experience.
paid for that.
Not always.
Oh, really?
Also, I could agree with Sean, because otherwise we have to pay, if we are hiring a contract, using the contract, we probably have to spend, what was it, almost $100,000. And previously they were almost maybe $50,000 plus for previous years, spend that much money to do it. So if you're hiring a so-called free laborers or students internship, I think they should somehow get compensated one way or another.
And my desire is simply to give them recognition.
Right. And that's kind of what I wrote down, is some type of recognition, because I know we've done that kind of in the past, where we've earned award points and then gone to the school store and gotten that.
Along with that line, if the students while working, doing that particular job and have some kind of accident, that they are fully covered, correct?
Correct, so there are students, our students are covered.
Just like if a student was in the auto shop or in the drafting lab, it's an accident, we have liability insurance for that.
So I have a question. What has been the reception of the custodial staff?
The custodial staff are super excited, but I think they recognize, is that a good way to put it? So they recognize that it was cost prohibitive. They're also they're trying to digest what it, you know, because it's broken in chunks of time. You throw towels in the wash machine, and an hour later they're ready for you, and then you throw them in the dry. So it's not like a full-time job, because otherwise you're just going to stand there and watch the machine. But they're working on whether it's the equipment manager or other staff kind of having to fill in the event that, and we have said also, they are now highly incentivized to make sure towel usage is at a level that can be maintained. So, you know, we had various towel usage in the buildings, and we now, you know, kind of make sure, stay on top of people a little more for their towel usage.
I think we got some shenanigans with towel.
Also it shows that district is cost effective. We're trying to find a way to save the money, especially in this human times stuff as well. Maybe anything else.
My mother made me wash home towels when I was 13. I think there's a solution if every kid just does it.
We'll just have the superintendent.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's how to do it.
As Archimedes said, give me the wash machine big enough and I will wash the water. Something like that.
Okay, I think we've taken care of that. There's no other comments. Ginny, would you please take a roll? Collins? Coyle? Lee?
Aye.
Austriaco?
Aye.
Sullivan? Owen? Aye. We have a motion on item 9.
So moved.
Okay, Mary, working cash aid resolution.
This is a resolution that will allow for the transfer of the bond proceeds that we sold to fund the boilers into the operation and maintenance fund, then into the capital project fund, because all bonded indebtedness for capital projects must be transferred to the capital project fund. But there's really currently no way in Illinois to directly transfer from working cash to capital projects, so we have to go by route to the O&M fund.
So we're gonna join the Compatibility Commission. I live 2 blocks north of the Kennedy, and so this is what to get to Good, good
The
luck.
superintendent says in jest.
In jest. No, it's, we have been asked to be part of the Comparative Voice Compatibility Commission. Now, it's a little bit more complicated. We were asked, I think, for one municipality, but as everyone will know, we represent multiple municipalities. So there is not a one particular municipality favorable solution that is necessarily a District 207 favorable solution.
I think
How's that?
I think the question really came up because District 64 and some of the other school districts that are impacted are on it, and they were honestly not sure why we weren't. They did really kind of question. I don't know, I've had a chance to look over what we're agreeing to, and we can leave with, I think, 60 days notice. We really aren't committing ourselves to anything other than attending the meetings. And it's hard to say how much impact the commission has, but from what I've heard, they are listened to on some of this. So the tricky part for our district would be if there was a situation where they were gonna try a new test run for a runway, and it maybe negatively impacts Maine South, benefits Maine West for some reason. I can't imagine if that would happen, but that might put the district in a funny spot. I would go through that, in which case I would stay. Exactly, so,
But that's my concern about this, and I don't think that,
well, there is, but you would stay, you just wouldn't be part of it. I mean, unless somebody has another thought on it, that's why we're here, is to discuss it and see.
I think it's a good idea to be part of the commission to know what's going on, but I think you just have to be very careful about what the repercussions of a vote would be. But it's better than not being at the meeting.
well, we don't know that yet. We haven't. Wait
Well,
till
I
we
mean,
abstain.
knowing what the, I guess what I'm saying is that just being informed about stuff that's going on.
My concern is that there could be an expectation that we vote in unison for a particular municipality's concern. And the history on this is long, and those of you who remember Elton Burke can tell you about traffic that used to fly directly on Maine West frequently. So we just have to be mindful that we aren't one thing.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, Ginny, would you take the roll?
Sullivan, Lee, Coyle, Collins, Austriaco, Owen.
Aye. Okay, item 11, waiver of facility rental fee. Second?
Second.
Ben, this is for classes that are going to be taught here at Maine South. This is on the McCaff waiver of. Okay. So I think it amounts to, $8,000 or something.
$6,240. But that's the maximum amount that would be, and it won't be every Saturday. It's just that it was put there as what the maximum amount would be.
Terry, would you guys be just using for a weekly, every Saturday morning?
Well, the thing is, I don't know when the classes have to be scheduled, so I just put it on the calendar for every Saturday, but that doesn't mean, typically, I have one Saturday a month, or maybe one Saturday every 2 months. But we'll see with the vaping classes, if it picks up, but I don't expect it to be every Saturday. I can't do that.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Okay, Ginny, would you take the roll?
Austriaco,
Aye.
Coyle,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sullivan, Collins,
Abstain.
and Owen.
Aye. Okay, item 12, under calendar items, everyone will see here that we now have standing dates and times for finance, buildings and grounds, and the education committee meetings. It's an effort to try and just everyone know when they are, and hopefully, make it more, easier for people to get to them. But of course, those could be changed as well. We find that we're having trouble getting people to those meetings.
Everybody noticed just a mention that the Opening Institute session on Fridays at East is not at West.
Oh,
Yes,
I did not know that.
well, we have
Okay.
we have, there's a chance that the AC at West might not be working, so we made a pivot to go to Main East. Thank you, Mike, for
In the
that.
auditorium.
The auditorium.
Okay. 7:45. That's opening day. Yes. well,
And Will Richardson is our keynote this year, so you're all invited to come in with him. Pretty interesting. I think we've shared a video with you guys previously.
Okay. Any other items? Oh,
The next meeting is actually Tuesday.
Yes.
It's just in my brain.
yes, it's the day after Labor Day. All right, any communications or public comments? Okay. I have a motion to go into closed session for purposes of discussing student personnel, review of closed session minutes, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees.
Second.
Jenny, would you take the roll? Austriaco?
Aye.
Collins?
Aye.
Foil? Lee? Sullivan? Bailey?